Hello everyone, my name is Jeff Neville and welcome to Selective Imagery. Welcome to photographing small birds versus large. Hi gang, before we go into the video and look at the stills and some of the small video clips I have for this photographing small birds and large bird episode, let's do a little quick run through on things that you need to consider without going over a list of 100 things, because I could probably come up with a list of 100 things. But in general, the small birds are much more skittish than the larger birds. Now, there are exceptions to this rule, and it mainly depends on the environment that you are in and where you're taking the images. If you're in a state park, a beach area that may have bird feeders sprinkled around, your own backyard, which you may have set up with, plants that attract certain types of birds or hummingbirds and regular bird feeders. You got your theme parks, adventure parks that may have either like drive-through safaris or zoos or your local zoo. Now, all those particular venues, the animals and or birds are, let's just say, are more used to people being around. It doesn't mean they can't get scared if you make a sudden movement or you make a loud sound or what have you. And it doesn't mean it's a petting zoo, okay? All the crazy people that go to Yellowstone thinking that they can get within 10 feet of a bison and hold up their cell phone and take a selfie with it, and that they're not going to have a horn up their behind or get seriously injured, is a perfect example of just because some of these animals may see cars and may see people doesn't mean they want you in their face. Okay, so remember that no matter where you are. Now, other areas, I mentioned Yellowstone. National parks are obviously huge in terms of acreage, so there's obviously some areas of the park that people may not go to as often, where the animals and the birds and the mammals don't see people as often. They're going to be more skittish. They're not used to seeing you at all. Wildlife preserve or sanctuary, excuse me, could very well be the same thing. A wooded area, whether it's, you own 20 acres of land and you walk through the woods, or you have access to some land that you can walk through to try to get, say, pictures of owls or deer or that type of thing. They're not used to people. They're going to be skittish. If you're looking for an area near an open field where you can get, owls maybe flying out of the tree line area and coming down and grabbing a rabbit or a vole or, that type of thing. Once again, they're not used to having a lot of people there. So you're going to have to blend in or, pick a spot and stay there and let them get acclimated to you being there if you're going to have any chance of getting a decent picture. Now, camouflage or no camouflage, well, obviously it depends on where you are. I could see it benefiting people if you're in the woods, or if you're near that open field and you want to blend in, not be seen as easily. Maybe you have a portable blind that you set up. Maybe you're lucky and if you have access to a blind that you can use. That's even better. But I see many people that come to the state park in full camo, pants, hat, shirt, camouflage, lens coverings on their long 600 millimeter lenses. Very foolhardy. You're in a tourist area. Right next to you is someone wearing a blazingly bright neon green or yellow shirt. So you wearing your camouflage in an area that's full of tourists and young children running around and screaming and saying, "Oh, where's the alligators, Daddy? Where's the alligators?" Leave your camouflage at home. You don't need to impress the rest of us. You're just wasting your time, and you look rather foolish because it doesn't do you a darn bit of good. So wear it where it makes sense, and don't wear it where it doesn't make sense. Just wear clothes that don't attract a lot of attention, that aren't overly bright and colorful, and more muted tones. Okay, and you will be just fine. What not to do? Well, don't speak loudly. If you're walking through the woods, you try to avoid stepping on branches that are laying on the ground, anything that would snap loudly and attract attention to yourself, or even dried out pine cones, but that's easier said than done, obviously. You just move cautiously and as quiet as possible, and you take your time, and you try not to draw attention to yourself. You want to avoid direct eye contact with the subject until you're viewing with the camera. And this is especially important, more so, not so much with a great blue heron that could stand in one place for over an hour before it decides to pluck a fish out of the water. You could probably stand there within 60 feet of it and do jumping jacks, and it's not gonna care, especially if you're in an area where it's used to seeing people. But if you're talking about an osprey, a bird of prey, a falcon, that type of thing, if you see it, you're lucky enough to see it, and you're trying to approach it, you do so cautiously, quietly, and try not to keep looking at it, which is a hard thing not to want to do. But if they lock eyes with you, there's a good chance that you get there as soon as you guys are like locking eyes, the predator flies away before you even have a chance to pick up your lens. So you want to be doing your eye contact through your lens, so at least you get a few shots off before it takes off. Now, what lenses do you need? Well, we could start a whole war here on the channel, but in general, I mean, if you're shooting larger birds, they're shorebirds. They tend to hang. They're in a tidal zone. Okay, they're going to be there as low tide starts to appear. There'll be trapped fish in pockets of water, or when the tide switches and the water is starting to come back in with a fresh supply of fish, they're going to be in the marshlands waiting for the food, and they'll stay in one spot for a long time. The snowy egrets aren't scared of anybody. The great blue herons, they're going to do their own thing, and that's true in an area that's used to seeing car traffic and or people. Those same birds, if you go somewhere that rarely sees a human at all, and it still may be like a bird sanctuary of some kind, but not very well known and doesn't attract a lot of people. Let me tell you, my friend Bob and I went to a place where we could see an egret, let's say 100 yards away, 150 yards away. As soon as it saw us, it disappeared, man. You didn't have a chance to even get a shot. I mean, whereas in the state park, I could be 20 feet away from them and it could care less. So like I said, the environment and where you're trying to capture these pictures, the behavior of the of the animal or the bird can be completely different. But if you're shooting birds like egrets and herons, you can use a 1:400 zoom and be perfectly fine. If you're fortunate enough to have a 1:5, a 2:5, a 1:6, that's even better. 180:6, because then if they go farther out, you could still get a decent size image of them without having to crop or having to crop very little. Now, if you're talking about some birds that don't typically get too close to you, like white pelicans, lots of times cormorants tend. It's like they just know just where you consider it a little bit too far for you to want to try to capture the shot, because you don't want to crop 60% on your image. So certain birds are going to require you to have that 500, 600 millimeter lens, or even an 800 at times, or have a teleconverter if you're okay with using a teleconverter, or having a smaller zoom lens on an APS-C type of camera where you get the crop factor benefit, and that type of thing. Birds of prey, for birds of prey and small birds, to me, the longer the lens, the better. And the reason I say that is, with a small bird, if you're very, very quiet and you're not moving, you could get a picture of a small bird with a 1 to 400 zoom, but you got to be very, very quiet. And even then, you're probably going to have to crop the image more than you would like to be able to get a decent size in your frame of the bird itself or on your photo. So, and that might not be a big deal, because a lot of bird photos that you see in in people's houses are usually like 8x10s or smaller. So people don't tend to take a picture of a cardinal and make a 20x30 print out of it. So if you're talking smaller print sizes, it's not quite as important if that is what you're trying to do. But if you have a longer lens, especially with a bird of prey, they're usually sitting high up on a tree or pretty high up on a tree branch. You're shooting upwards. You want to minimize that look of having the lens like this. You back up further so it doesn't look as dramatic. Then you need a long glass. And if you have the long glass for small birds, it allows you to back up further away from the bush or the tree, and then you can crop less to fill the frame with the bird and end up with a more desirable image. Another thing with small birds, if you're walking along the road, which I do lots of times, if you think you just walk along the road and you just turn your head to the left and you turn your head to the right, and you're going to say, oh yeah, there's a small bird, there's a small bird, there's a small bird, and they're going to be all around you. That's not how it works 99% of the time. They're there. You can maybe hear them, but you can't see them. What you need to do is you need to pick a spot, and it could be out in the open. You're walking along the side of the road. There's really nowhere to hide, right? So but stand in one place for 10, 15 minutes. Don't move around. Stay in one place for 10 or 15 minutes. And you'd be shocked how the small birds all of a sudden appear in the trees all around you, where you are able to get a photograph of those birds. But it isn't going to be like I could just walk around and I'm just going to see everything and just snap a bunch of images, because that's not really how it works. They're a lot more skittish, and you have to be more patient, and you have to let them get used to you being there so they don't see you as a threat. Okay, they don't see you doing anything threatening. You're not moving fast. You're not making a lot of noise. You're just standing there. Eventually they'll kind of block you out and they'll just do their own thing, and you can get the pictures of them. So that's about it. Let you watch the rest of the show. Take care. So here we are in Huntington Beach State Park, and there's snowy egrets, and followed by some white pelicans with some egrets as well. Now those are much farther out, and these mute swans decided to fly in and land and join the pelicans. And then you're going to see a series of loon shots of a loon, which see it fairly often in another location a few miles away. If you do see them in the park, I mean, it may only be one or two. In this particular day, it was only one. But as the light changed drastically, obviously, you know, it affected the color of the water. And you know, at one time, you know, it brightened up, so you had the blue sky, and that was shining down and reflecting in the water. So there's a handful of shots here of the loon in different conditions, and it's a fun bird to watch. I did enjoy seeing it. I haven't seen one in a while, so it was enjoyable. Here you can see the red of the eye. Usually you don't have quite the sunlight hitting it perfectly where it really lights up that eye. And you know, another bird, it's not a large bird, it's like medium size. It's, you know, your snowy egret flying in, and I like to shoot through the reeds sometimes, you know, make it look a little bit different. Give it a little bit of interest with some pops of color. And then, you know, of course, we have a sandpiper here. It's sitting on the edge of this rock, just looking down. I like the color in the water. And yes, this is not a bird photograph. This is just to kind of trick you and make sure you're awake. I like whatever flower this is. It looks like a cabbage, actually. But, you know, these pictures you're seeing now is we're transitioning over to Brook Green Gardens, and here's a little blue heron. And now you're going to start seeing some of the smaller birds, the tufted titmouse. I have a whole series of images with that particular bird, which I truly, truly enjoy very much. It's always a challenge when you're shooting them and when they're in the bushes to try to get a clear shot of them. But, you know, you have to be patient. You are going to take more shots than maybe you want to take. But they're wonderful little birds. I took this, cropped this one so you can see the detail in the eye. I mean, this is with the 800 PF. And here it's taken off from the tree. The feet were still on the branch, but it got the engine running first anyway. And here it is on the ground looking for some food. And then one where it's up on this branch with the lichen hanging down, which is really neat. And then we have a pine warbler. I really like that shot quite a bit. And a southern chickadee. And we got some cardinal shots as well. And you know, I know photographers that don't want to take cardinal shots. They go, I can take them in my backyard. Well, it doesn't mean that they don't look good when they're not in your backyard. And they are very pretty birds, so why not take them when you get a chance to? And then we have a blue jay that made an appearance. Got a few shots that I'm going to share of the blue jay. And then you get into a larger species here. I don't usually take pictures of red-headed vultures, but this one was just perched so perfect, I had to get an image of it. And now you're going to see a video clip of a sandhill crane. And I know what you're thinking. Sandhill cranes are not in South Carolina. You are absolutely correct. And my friend Bob from Bob Our Photos was with me, and he walked up to someone who works in Brook Green Gardens and said, what's the deal with the sandhill crane? You know, why is there a sandhill crane here? Apparently they acquired it from Florida. But I want to stress that even though it's along the path of the Low Country Zoo area, right now it's in an area that's open. It has a very short fence to kind of keep the turkeys in when they're in that area, but this bird could fly and go wherever it wants, and it's choosing to stay here. And now you're going to see some still images of the sandhill crane. So this was a joy, and we wouldn't have even seen it if it wasn't making noise. And it really does know how to make some very loud vocalizations, and we didn't know what it was. So, you know, we were following the sound, and then we actually saw it, and it was nowhere near us either. These are all shots with the 800. Bob was using the 180 to 600 to get his shots, and it was poking its head in the bank there a lot, trying to get something. I never saw it, you know, actually come up with anything in its beak, but it was busy poking its head, like I said, against the bank there along the edge of the water. And it is a beautiful bird, but I can't imagine with the vocalization of one, if I was in a place where people, would see like 10,000 of them or more, and they're all making noises, I would have to wear earplugs. I mean, it was really, really, really loud. I was shocked by how much noise one bird could make. So there's the sand crane vocalization. Now we're going to look at some wood duck stills. This is in the zoo portion of Brook Green Gardens. And then we will see some images of a ruddy duck coming up, a few shots. Here's a short video of a canvasback duck preening itself and queening itself. Neat duck. I mean, when you get a lot of them, actually at Huntington Beach State Park, and you get a lot of them in the water, obviously that's a delicious meal for a bald eagle to go after. And here we finish up the video clip. Surprise, not a bird. This is from the red wolf exhibit that they have, which is wonderful. I mean, it's a wonderful creature, a wonderful animal to look at. And, since we were there, we got a few shots of them. Hope you enjoy it. And this will be the end of the show. And I thank you for watching. Thank you for watching my channel. I really appreciate it. Please give me a like and leave a comment, pro or con. Just please be respectful. And if you really enjoyed it, please subscribe to my channel. I would really appreciate it. And remember my motto, enjoy life, capture some of it, get out there and get some of your best images, irregardless of the genre that you choose to shoot. Take care and God bless.